morning. Good morning, everybody. We're having fun already. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head, by the way. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson. We created this show for you because we know that everybody with an invisible condition, we want them to know that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. Okay, today I have Kathi McCarty, and I'm so excited to have you here. Kathi, in her mid-50s, she was a single mom, successful VP of a large Denver bank. But in the span of a few days, she lost her dad, gained double vision in the same time frame, went through a bunch of tests, received diagnosis of Graves' disease and a related condition, Thyroid Eye Disease. The diagnosis was a start, but she's been through a lot of stuff, gone through several surgeries, encountered a meth lab. I mean, good Lord. Kathi is now a passionate educator, advocator, and founder of Meth Toxins Awareness Alliance, and is raising awareness about the dangers of meth contamination. Recently, she championed new legislation in Colorado here that was passed, which is awesome, and signed by the governor this year. So welcome, Kathi, and congratulations, by the way. That's no small thing.
Thank you.
So
great to be here. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. I mean, I know it's not, we were talking before, and I know that's not where you want to land. There's more to do, but you've done more than in that amount of time than most people do in a lifetime, getting something through Congress. That's like the impossible almost. So tell us about when you all this crazy stuff happened. You lost your dad and got double vision, like within a very short amount of time. Tell us about that. That sounds kind of crazy.
Yes, and thanks for having me here, Jeff. It's great to be
Absolutely.
here and have this conversation. It was February of 2016. My dad had taken, he had failing health for years, but he had taken suddenly ill and was gone within a matter of less than 24 hours, pretty much at that time, from an already failing health situation. And then literally within less than a week of us planning and celebrating his life and having his service, within a couple days before that service, I woke up with double vision.
Oh my goodness. And then, but that wasn't it. Like you.
That was really what it started. Prior to that, in January of 2016, I had started to experience some symptoms of feeling like there was sand in my eyes all the time. And literally the month before, I'd been to an optometrist for a regular checkup with, I wore glasses, I had stigmatism and other things that I dealt with, but and wore glasses, but I had gone for an annual checkup and everything seemed good. And then literally within days of that, I was feeling these symptoms of sand and whatnot that progressed within just a few weeks to ultimately waking up and having double vision right before my dad's service.
That's like the worst feeling ever, right? And you can't get out.
You can't. Lots of eye ointments and teardrops and things like that, and there was no relief. And my role at that time, my career, it was very eye intensive. There was a lot of detailed computer work.
Yeah.
There was a lot of detailed paperwork. There was a lot of movement and driving. And at that time, being here in Colorado, it's winter time, so there's a lot of responsibility to be able to navigate responsibly in a vehicle and things.
Right. Yeah, driving in Colorado in the winter is kind of a feat of engineering sometimes, between
It is.
moving the car down the road and make sure it doesn't slide, avoid the potholes,
Right.
Yeah, seriously. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. So what did you think when you had this double vision?
Right. And so what did I do at that point?
Then,
I basically patched one eye. And I navigated through that week of actually, going through my father's service and navigating with family and close friends and things like that. Or if I didn't wear a patch, I was trying to find the right type of patch that would work.
Right.
It really didn't matter which eye I patched. As long as I patched one eye, the other eye straightened out. But I didn't really have great detailed sight. Like I didn't feel comfortable driving and things like that with a patch on, but I did it. And then after I took a very short period of time to take care of that, I went back to my my job, and I had just been off work. I was trying to catch up, right? It wasn't easy, and I delayed the need to go see an eye doctor of some sort. A good friend referred me to their eye doctor, and it took me a couple weeks to catch up and finally call and make that appointment. And when I did, I found this great ophthalmologist, and she was a cataract specialist by trade, and actually she has since retired, but she took one look at me. I got very teary in her chair after navigating this for over 2 weeks now. And she knew exactly what it was, although she didn't share it with me. She excused herself from the room. She made a call, and then she came back in the room and gave me a card and said, "You have an appointment tomorrow morning, and this is where you want to go, and this is who you want to see." And He was a phenomenal neuro-ophthalmologist here locally in the Denver metro area. He was actually a dual specialist. Call him Dr. T, because he has a very long name, Dr. Theajaria, Christopher Theajaria, if I remember correctly. And anyway, I was in his chair first thing the next morning, and he put me on a path of sending me out for tests and ultimately blood work. And I had to have an MRI to rule out a brain tumor. It's kind of a protocol I learned, and send me to an endocrinologist. The symptoms that I had being thyroid, what he knew to be thyroid eye disease. They call it TEDS. He referred me to an endocrinologist, and I was on my way for the next few weeks to all sorts of tests, and ultimately a diagnosis of Graves' disease, which is autoimmune. The antibodies in the blood attack some area of the body, and in my case, it was my thyroid. That's very common. And then the thyroid does attack the tissue, the fat and the muscle that is in your orbital area that holds your eyeballs in, and that becomes it's highly inflamed when it gets to the level that it was at mine, where it pushes out your eyeballs, and then they become misaligned. That's what causes the double vision, and that progressed. They treated me. They watched me. They treated me for the thyroid part of it. I learned all sorts of things. I learned that I was pre-diabetic. I was a lot heavier than I am now. I was, loved by friends and family. I was like the most active, overweight, middle-aged woman that I knew, but I seemed healthy. I seemed healthy, but obviously I wasn't. My lifestyle and just the things that I was not doing to take care of myself. I mean, I literally just ended up running into a wall.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that happens.
It does.
You can't argue with your body.
No.
When there's something legit wrong and you don't address it, it will it will address it for you.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
will.
it will.
It'll stop you in your tracks. And
Yeah.
the medication to navigate and manage my thyroid and ultimately learn that I was pre-diabetic. I did some things immediately to try to eliminate sugars in my diet, things that we don't even know have sugar in them.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and then there was, bad habits that I had. I had inherited a sweet tooth, all those types of things. But anyways, I had to make some drastic changes very quickly. But unfortunately, the TEDs continue to progress, and within less than 3 months of my initial diagnosis, probably closer to 2 months, I woke up one day, not, I already had the double vision, and it was not regressing. So I was trying to navigate my world, including my job and all these other things. But I woke up one day with my right eye, and I had lost color then.
Oh, no.
Everything was black and white. Your nice sweater here, it would have been a grayscale. All the colors that we see on the screen or the colors you see around me I woke up and I had I had a level of some type of grayscale in my right eye, and that was very scary. So what was happening is I learned. Of course, I immediately called my Dr. T, and I got in to see him immediately. But the inflammation was continuing to compress the optic nerve, and I was losing my sight. I didn't know that at the time, but that's what was really going on. And the next step would have been to then wake up, or I could have been anywhere, and the inflammation would have cut off the signal from the optic nerve to the brain, and it would have just gone black on me.
That could have been kind of scary. Good thing you figured that out, because that could have, I know people that, like with other conditions that have things like that, and they don't drive because, God forbid, you're driving and then all of a sudden the lights go out, and then what? Right. So it's good. You got to figure that stuff out.
So I was, so they put me on a treatment protocol to try to bring down the inflammation at that time. And that was scary in itself, because it was steroids, and it wasn't steroids, oral steroids that you can take in pill form. These were high level IV steroids, and I got to be introduced to what an infusion center is, where you go in and you get hooked up to an IV, and you basically take it intravenously for over a gram a week for several weeks. And what I didn't know, because I couldn't read the fine print of the paperwork at all, sign here, right?
Funny, not funny, really.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know is why that night. Why was I up all night? I couldn't sleep, and I found out steroids, it amps you up. My sugars were way up. Yeah, it does. I didn't know that. And when I took my sugar levels that night, they were almost at 600, if you know anything about sugar. So
it could kill you.
It literally was, a necessary evil to save my sight. I had to go through this piece and do it for several weeks. The good news is that the inflammation didn't progress to the point where I lost my sight, but it also didn't regress to where I saw color. And so they ultimately, in order to then save my sight, they ultimately had to do a surgery after the several weeks. So by mid-July of 2016, I had my first of 4 surgeries in almost 9 months.
Wow.
And that was scary. But I was just grateful that there were solutions, right? And I had healthcare through my employer that I paid for, and all these types of things. So what they end up doing is they go in and they do what's called an orbital decompression. They remove bone and tissue here around the orbital area to make room for inflammation. So they basically,
they know it's going to be inflamed.
They know that it keeps coming and going, but it pretty much was at a level where inflammation was there. And so by making more room in there and removing fat and bone, it allowed it to expand where it needed to go. And then when I woke up, my color was restored.
Get out.
That was awesome.
That's amazing.
You know, you wake up, you're asleep during surgery, obviously,
Yeah.
and but then there was a
Yeah.
byproduct of that. So
Wow.
the byproduct of that is that I woke up, I had color, but I believe it was my right eye was also kind of pointing in a little bit because
Yeah.
they don't know exactly where to anchor it and where it's centered. So I went through that, and then I thought I'd have a few weeks of recovery time, and then I'd get to go back to my position and sort of move on with my life, and then maybe have a surgery that might help with realignment. But unfortunately, while I was at home recovering, then I woke up one morning and I had the same grayscale with my left eye. And then I went through the same process with only a couple of IV infusions of steroids. I had already then was receiving the maximum, probably lifetime dose for that type of thing.
Yeah, that's a thing. They like to limit that because steroids are no joke.
Yeah,
so
they cook your gizzards from the inside, I guess.
So what in the world is going on? I mean, you've gone this there is so much.
Right.
You've done all this. I mean, between all the stuff that was before and this demanding career, and now all this crazy stuff with the black and white.
Yeah.
What emotionally, like, how did you navigate that? Like, what was your emotional state through all that? Like, it had to have been
that was scary, but I was really grateful that I woke up and I had my sight. I have to be honest with you. I wasn't I had to sort of release and let go, let God, that kind of thing. And I was just grateful that there were options, and I felt like I was with with the right team of people. I was so really appreciative of that. Dr. T was also a dual specialist. He was an ocular plastic surgeon as well. So not only did he have the neuro-ophthalmology skill to retain my sight, but then I have seen, you don't want to go on the internet and do a lot of surfing.
Don't go to WebMD.
No, and I had seen some photos and read some, horror stories and seen some ghoulish pictures of people that had those same type of surgeries. And so by him having this this ocular plastic surgery dual specialty, I was just really so grateful. And then when I had the second surgery, the same thing happened. I woke up. And then I was able to, he had restored the color and in my eye, and I didn't lose my sight, but I did have at that point then what I refer to as wonky eyes. My eyes were, one eye was pointing this way and one eye was pointing that way. And, people struggled more looking at me because I wasn't looking in the mirror. And I wore sunglasses. I mean, I just hid behind my eyes is what I hid behind my sunglasses all the time and visors. Even at night, I was very light sensitive. I'm light sensitive in this room, even with lighting that is not even pointed directly at me. Light is my kryptonite, but so I wear a lot of visors and I wear sunglasses a lot, even indoors and things like that, to try to help me just deal with symptoms that, people have no idea. They just think I'm squinting or, I'm, I don't know, they just don't understand.
So hold the phone for a second. So it's an invisible condition.
It really is.
Nobody knows. I'm telling you, I have the same thing. My car windows are so darkly tinted.
Right.
And it's like my entire car is my pair of sunglasses because of similar things. We don't have everything in common, but we do have that.
We do have that.
My eyes are really wonky too. And so we both have glasses with really fancy stuff in them, which we can talk about later. But I totally get it. And man, you know what? We could just keep going for 3 hours right now, but we're not going to because we have nice people that have commercials that want to be on the air too. So we're going to share and be nice. And give me 1 second, and we're going to take just a short little break here, and then we are going to come back. And you're going to. I know you've got probably suggestions that you could talk to people about. With someone who may be dealing with this and that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about that in the second segment, and then it's really going to get exciting. We're not talking about that yet, though. There's something that really, really went crazy here in a minute. So,
oh yeah, all sorts of good stuff.
all kinds of good stuff. So we will see you guys in a couple of minutes. Hey, everybody, and we're back. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for being here, Kathi. Man, if you missed the first segment, you're definitely going to want to go back on the replay and check it out, because good Lord, this girl's been through it. It's been a crazy day, a crazy bunch of years with all of this, but with all the stuff that you talked about in that first segment, with all the tests and all the doctors and all the black and white vision, and then color, and then black and white, and then color. What you said you tried some natural therapies for the Graves' disease. What happened there?
I did. I tried to complement the benefits of Western medicine with some Eastern modalities. I had reached out to an old dear friend of over 30 years who was in the wellness space, had a little time on my hands that I wasn't anticipating, and learned about some areas of just trying to reduce the inflammation more with some natural practices. Obviously things like acupuncture, acupressure, massage, diet, even something as simple as good water, eating and drinking better, walking more. I couldn't
sleep.
I couldn't ride a bike. Sleep was never an issue really with me. I'm very lucky in that area. But I was walking. I could walk a lot. I couldn't ride a bike or do some of those other things because of my eyes, but I could get out and walk in easy white paths. And I even did some travel and went to the wellness center out in another state, and even did some traveling where this friend of mine hosted these wellness healing water retreats in the South Island of Jamaica. And I did that. I know where the mineral content is really extreme, and these areas are known, and the natural fruits and the foods. And I just got introduced back then in early 2017 and into 2018 to a lifestyle that really was so unique to me. A culture, a group of people, and just things that were very healing for me. Acupuncture was also, these folks were all aligned to certain modalities that really help reduce the inflammation and also take off the weight. I was more active, I was moving, I was eating better. And so that was a complement to Western medicine that helped me feel better.
So how did all of this, you've got children, right? Your family, all this stuff, like with all of that going on, how did that impact? I mean, how old were they when you were going through this? How did that impact all that?
Good question. In 2016, my daughter, my oldest, who was off to college.
Okay.
I had 2 teenage sons at home, and my oldest son, my middle child, he then went off to college locally. When I say off to college, so he didn't move away. He was very close within the front range of the Denver metro area of Colorado.
Okay.
And my youngest was just finishing high school. So I was lucky that they were driving, and I needed some help. In fact, even in 2016, my sons and I, we went on a trip that I had earned through work in Hawaii, and
nice.
I had rented a car, a vehicle. I had rented a Jeep for our excursion. I took both my sons. My oldest son was over 21 at that time, so he was allowed to be my +1. And but they had to drive. You know, he had to drive everywhere. I couldn't feel comfortable even driving them around. We were on Kauai, so it was phenomenal.
So the driving was better than if you were on Oahu in that big city. Right?
Yeah, it was, and we had a blast.
Beautiful.
But you know, one thing that really touched my heart that I just remembered from that trip, helping me remember it, is I remember my son when we were at the event, one of the evenings of the event. He loves music like me. He loves to dance.
Nice.
He's a much better dancer than I am. And he asked me to dance, and I said no. And I said thank you, and I was very polite, and I could see the disappointment on his face. You know, he's in Hawaii, and he wants to dance with mom. But because of the things that I didn't talk about, I mean, I was in the early stages of this Graves' disease and TEDS, and there was a mobility issue and an equilibrium issue that I was also dealing with. That when I would stand up, and if I tried to move like that, I mean, I couldn't do it. And so
on the floor.
I would have been very off balance, and I didn't even explain that to him. All he knew is that I was just rejecting the thought of dancing with him. And anyway, but if you see this now, I don't know that I ever shared that. But that being said,
by the way, it was her, not you. It's okay.
It wasn't personal. But there are things that there were a lot of different symptoms that I navigated with Graves and thyroid, and there's digestive issues, and there's all sorts of things that do go on that are symptomatics that I learned to manage, and I still do even today, that they are invisible. People don't realize that. They just say, wow, your eyes look great, and this is several years later of healing and 4 surgeries, because I did have to go back and have 2 more strabismus surgeries, and the strabismus surgery realigns the eyeballs as best as they can to take that double vision and try to align your eyeballs. But like we both have the prisms in our glasses is in common.
Love that.
We learned about that, and that has been my savior.
Me too.
I never even knew about prisms, but I had to go through many, many months of waiting to heal before I even became a candidate. So your eyes, the inflammation just from surgeries finally lands, the tissues finally recede as far as swelling and inflammation from surgeries, and then they could fit you for some equipment that could help me, and these have been a godsend. Honestly.
Wow, that is amazing. So you didn't do a lot of, I mean, you did some Western medicine, but you did a lot of natural. You did a lot of natural stuff. What is there? You mentioned acupuncture. What was it?
An amethyst medical biomat.
What the heck is that?
And that's when I was introduced to it. And so there's these amethyst crystals within this mat that sends infrared rays into your body, and you could turn it on to where it has a heating componment. So it feels great. I mean, it's the best nap I've ever had in my whole life. I went on one of those, and I was out like a light, and I felt very rejuvenated, and I still continue to use it to this day, as well as other people in my community and my tribes. I've made mention of it, and
we're gonna have to talk later, because I gotta figure out how to get one of those. I've got one similar. I've got a pad that it's like a system reset, but that sounds phenomenal. numb.
I
We'll have to talk
heard
about
you
that
talk
later.
about that in a different something that vibrated, but I didn't want the vibration. I wanted the relaxation. And there's
the
something
heat.
in these. Yeah, the heat was
Yeah.
great, especially in the cool air of the fall and the winters and the springs here. So
Yeah,
it was just a phenomenal. And I'm still on it all the time, and I know it helps.
it does
You know,
make a difference.
it does.
Significant difference.
Makes
Enough
a
that
huge
you.
difference.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Pets use it. I mean,
What?
you can use it for all. People put their pets on
Come
it
on.
for. There's arthritis. I'm feeling that at my age. I'm feeling a lot of those other things that happen as we grow older. But people use it not only for themselves, their children, for many different things that ail them or recovery even of injury.
Oh yeah.
But they use it for their pets and whatnot too. So
Is there any other like therapies or anything that you would recommend if somebody? I mean, I know you're not a doctor. You
No.
can't, like, take it with a grain of salt,
right,
people.
right.
But if it worked for you, maybe it'll work for them. Was there
Yes.
something that you would throw out there, say, try this, see if it works for you?
Well, food. I mean, food is medicine. Is really one of the things that I really found is our
The
food.
right food.
The right food, the colors of the rainbow. And there were things that I've had to really reduce that are foods that can cause more inflammation, like tomatoes. And, I love pastas and pizzas and anything that has
gluten
tomatoes.
In general, probably.
Yes.
It's like a no-no now.
Breads and
Right.
glutens,
Yeah.
a lot of grains.
Yeah.
So it's getting back to the rainbows. I've been blessed with people in my life personally as well as professionally that have really introduced me to those different areas. And acupuncture, I never had acupuncture, but I experienced that as well as acupressure from people that had studied that, and they could find certain areas of my body in your feet as well as your hands and my face, my orbital area. And having acupuncture as well as acupressure I found was actually very helpful.
That is amazing how they can find a spot up here or somewhere, and it helps over here.
And simple
Crazy.
Massage. And I'm not talking about just rubbing the muscles or this or that. I was not one to actually partake in going and getting my monthly massage or my weekly massage. And I learned that the right people with the right skill sets really knew to find those areas that really helped me relieve the stress and the tension that in my body that probably helped to contribute to, the things that happen, physically, medically.
Yeah. Did you ever, I tried this years ago after a couple surgeries. I had a couple brain surgeries that left me with just migraines all the time. And there was something that I tried called cranial sacral therapy. Did you ever try anything like that? It never really worked for me. It made it, it was the opposite effect I think that we were going for.
Right.
I've heard really good things about that. Did you ever?
I've heard about it, but I personally didn't use it.
Okay.
But I know I have family that really suffers from ear ringing. And I would really love to, and has been, checked out by the experts for audio and tinnitus and there it is. And some of those kind of things, but still no relief yet. So there might be some additional value to looking into something like that.
Because there's like in the Denver, Colorado Springs area, there's so many things besides going to the doctor's office. There's so many people with so many different modalities, like acupuncture, like cranial sacral, like all this stuff. And so, I mean, everywhere there is, but we're, that's where we are. So.
And here's what I learned in the beginning of all this, when I was impacted. I mean, as I sort of mentioned earlier, I was the most active, healthiest, overweight, middle-aged woman I knew. No prescriptions of any kind, navigated, menopause and things like that pretty well. And yet when all this started happening, I looked on my bathroom counter. I had 9 different prescriptions. A couple of them, were like steroids that were eye drops and antibiotic eye drops and things like that. But they were pumping me up with drugs.
Was it all from the same person? Though?
No, there was like 2 different doctors.
See, that's the problem right there sometimes. Yeah.
And they never really got to they really never peeled back that layer of the root of why. Why did this happen? Obviously, I wasn't taking good care of myself. I wasn't getting my thyroid checked to get those levels checked sooner. I was
Yeah.
hyperthyroid as opposed to hypo,
Mhm.
which is Hashimoto's. So I was hyperthyroid, too much of that hormone that really just impacted the muscle and the fat in the orbital area of the eye, and really turned that muscle from, it was described to me as, it was like, it used to be filet mignon and now it's like heavy grizzle. I mean, I'm just being as frank as I can say, is to get in front of it. Prevention is huge, because
It is.
it became a gift in many ways, obviously, for many reasons. But but if you can get in front of it and prevent it, that is.
I mean, that's always best.
That is always best. Yeah.
Yeah, prevention is always the way to go. I mean, yeah, because I mean, look, what is it? Learn from other people's knowledge, right? Figure it out without having to go through it yourself. Sometimes you can't help it, but
yeah.
But if you can, So what? So we're gonna. I don't want to get too much into what we're gonna talk about in the next segment, because spoiler alert, right?
It's crazy.
So
you can't make this stuff up.
You really can't. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. Please stay for the third segment, because you're not even gonna. I can't even say it. But but what have you learned? Like, we've got just a couple minutes left, but like 3 or 4 minutes to go, but till the next little break here. But what have you learned through all this? Like, this has been a lot, right? Like, you've had to turn your whole life upside down, change careers, do all the stuff, and we can get more into this in the next segment too. But I'm just like, how do you do that? Well,
it's a great question, because I did, in retrospect, I had a lot of time to sort of contemplate where I was going Mach 20. My life was great. I mean, my kids were thriving. I had a career that I loved. I loved what I did 90% of the time, right? No role was perfect, but there were certain things that you don't like to do during the day. But and I excelled in that area. So it was very stressful, but to me it seemed like good stress. Positive stress. But one of the things that I learned is that
stress,
I don't go and there were responsibilities that I had. There were goals and measurements that I was required of me to meet the expectations, and I was somebody that always just tried to do my best. It wasn't like I was competitive in that way. I just tried to do my best, and through that I thrived in the roles and the responsibilities that I had. But what I realized is that, and I learned is, I don't think our bodies can differentiate good stress from bad stress.
No,
it's just.
I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, it's just stressful.
Stress.
It is. It's just stressful, and I think that was a huge contributor to the fact that I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating well. There were refined and products and refined sugars and not natural products that I was putting in my body, and my body retaliated big time. And I see it like those crash test dummies where they you ram right into a wall, and that's exactly what happened. And I am just so lucky that they saved my sight was saved, and that my life was saved, because there are people that have what I have had, what I have, and are not here to.
Because when you start messing with the brain,
right?
I mean, it is a fickle animal. It will end you like that if you don't address it. If you don't listen,
right?
It'll listen for you.
It will, and that's what my body did. It said, "Wake up, Kathi," and so it was a wake up call. And I heeded the call, and I took a pause, and I took a deep breath. And that's where I did find the gratitude that I had saved my sight. Not that I really was not remorseful that I wasn't able to go back to the career that I had. I saw it as the universe was opening the door to a new next chapter. I knew once my youngest was going to go off to college, I was looking to possibly shift within my roles or do something differently, which was going to be within a year or so anyway. And the universe had bigger plans for me, and I just learned to embrace the gratitude as to what that allowed to unfold.
And And man, did it ever.
It did.
And all I'm going to say.
It's a good segue, right?
Right? Seriously, I didn't even plan that. You can't even plan this stuff.
Can't.
Look at you.
Can't.
So yeah, no, I'm just going to say, all I'm going to say is, if anybody's dealt with a meth lab in their house, in a rental that they have, stick around, because there is so much more to the story. It is insane. So,
or if you don't want to deal with
it, here's the person to talk about it. So yeah, we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break, and we will see you in a couple minutes.
Hi, this is Ken D. Foster, the host of the Voices of Courage show. Join us live on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, where we help you see the unseeable, know the unknowable, and do the impossible on E360 TV.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, for our Believe It or Not last segment. I know, time flies when you're having fun, right? And you've got I swear, we could probably do a 3-hour show about your story. This has been so much.
It's crazy.
My head is exploding right now, just thinking about everything that you've gone through. But on the other side on the last segment, we kind of hinted about a meth lab.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really should get to that, because that is a huge part of where you kind of took a turn and went to a whole different realm of doing things totally outside of banking. Right. So yeah, tell us what happened there.
Well, it's outside of banking, but it's really because of my experience and I spent over 30 years in lending, residential real estate, as well as commercial lending and banking for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So as I am healing from the surgeries and working on my next chapter, I knew I couldn't go back to my role at a bank on a daily basis like I did, but I was working on my next chapter, wanting to developing a consulting business for small business owners. And then when I went to the South Island of Jamaica, there was this opportunity that was presented to actually go in collaboration with my friend on a very modest property down there, where we were going to host these healing water retreats and other types of retreats where I could come and go. My youngest was going off to college, and I felt this sense of freedom that I hadn't had in obviously well over 30 years. Being a mom and whatnot and things like that. And so I saw that as it didn't happen to me, it somehow happened for me, in the sense that I could take care of my responsibilities here. I had my home here in the foothills of Denver, in a very quaint community called Evergreen, Colorado. I had purchased a restored 56 cabin that the boys and I lived in until they were going off to college. My daughter was already off to college when I did that, and I just saw this opportunity to build that next chapter. So even if I was here in Colorado, but there was a retreat being hosted down in Jamaica, there was this there was this opportunity of financial independence, retaining and earning an income from those types of things, as well as going down there and continuing on my own healing path and just learning new things. We were talking about people wanted to host retreats that were around the healing foods, the healing music, and the healing waters. And
perfect place for that.
And it was perfect. And this property was perfect, and it was so affordable. So what I did is, when my youngest was going off to college, I decided, because I was helping to restore this property, it really, from a financial standpoint, it wasn't a ton of money like you would think. But I chose to rent out my home in Evergreen for 1 year to using a property management company who found a tenant, an individual, and then I would go back and forth. And then when I was in town, I had family I could stay with, and then when I was down there, that was great. And
sounds kind of perfect.
It sounded kind of perfect. I put all the right protections in place.
Yep.
I hired a management company, asked all the right questions, did all the right vetting and things like that, put all the right insurances in place. And then within 90 days of his tenancy, I learned that there was what I was told was a minor water maintenance break at the house. There was a water line break at the house, but it was minor, and they were working on repairs. And through a series of events within 90 days, that I won't bore you with those other series of events.
Yeah.
But I learned that it wasn't a minor repair. I went up to the home, and I discovered equipment behind the home that I could not recognize that turned out to be an extraction system for THC products, extracting THC from cannabis and making high potency products. And I took photos that were obtained to the local sheriff's substation, where they got a search warrant, and they found a lot of things inside, including a meth lab, over 800 grams of meth, a lot of drugs, and a whole thing that put me on a whole different trajectory. And I can only share with you. I know.
That's a lot.
It is
That's
a lot
of meth.
It's a lot of meth, and but
Man.
I can only share with you. The journey has been like where Breaking Bad collides with me channeling my Aaron Brockovich, due to what I knew in real estate as an affiliate, and yet I worked in residential real estate for over 30 years and never ever heard that the secondary byproduct of smoking meth, recreationally or habitually, as well as manufacturing meth, leaves a toxic residue that is extremely and highly dangerous. And it totaled my home, and it set me on a whole different trajectory.
Boo. I'm sorry. It's not
cool.
No, it's not cool at all.
It's not cool.
And it's what really, really sucks is you did all the right stuff, right? How could this happen? You did all the right stuff, but that's so crazy. But you know what? It kind of worked out to be, in one way, it sent you on a trajectory to help others. Yeah. That are in this situation, right? So
or to avoid it.
Right. That's
prevention.
Better.
It's on the same path as what we talked about of preventing these health situations that maybe could create some invisible disabilities, right? So
that could create conditions. Living in a house that, if you hadn't found that out, I don't know how you wouldn't have found it out.
Right.
It was kind of blatant, but
I couldn't stand in my home for longer than a minute with my eyes burning so bad. Yet other people could, but because of the sensitivities that I had with my eyes, it was my beacon that there was something very, very, very wrong. And if I hadn't discovered all this while he was still there, he would have just followed through on his tenancy, moved out, and then I would have moved in and not even been able to be in my home and then that would have been a whole different set of issues. But I basically caught everybody red-handed. He was arrested. But
well, good.
Yeah. But he never got prosecuted then because he fled, but then he got busted later. So he he is incarcerated now, and he's serving time for a certain portion of his crimes. But yeah, so it put me on a trajectory to create a platform of awareness, education, and prevention, mostly to get in front of it.
What did you do with that? I mean, you got some serious cred now.
Yeah,
with what you did next, man.
There's some big stuff that's going on.
That's a big deal.
So during in this, so one of the things that I learned real briefly is that our insurances, as much as they protect us, including me, in many areas of my life. I mean, I had health insurance that just carried my butt through all that medical stuff, and I had my co-pays, and there are other insurances that have really been there for me. But when it came to the situation that happened with my home, even though I had all the right policies in place, and the tenant supposedly had a policy, and the management company had a policy, our homeowners policies don't necessarily cover. They don't cover us for meth toxins. I can tell you that. And tenant policies may not probably cover you for criminal activity because it's willful and wanton. So we think we're protected, but then we're kind of playing Russian roulette with depending upon what happens. So that's where I created a lot of awareness and education. My home was a restored log cabin. I think I had mentioned that. And so it was permeated. The toxins are they're very dangerous. They cause severe health issues and things like that, and financial impacts. So when it's not covered, you have to figure out how to remediate it, if it can be remediated, or you have to gut your home. But in the case of a log home, I didn't have the drywall to gut. And
you got no guts in there. It's logs.
It's logs, and insurance doesn't cover it. And the management company, I had to try to hold them responsible for what I thought was, a breach of their fiduciary responsibility. And they never vetted the tenant and things like that. And it left me in a very tough situation. And we were also, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. So
in the midst of all that, you needed more, right? Right in the beginning of that whole mess.
Right.
But so with all of that, what'd you say that you told me your tagline, you turn lemons into legislation.
Well,
that's just put your money where your mouth is.
Right. I was writing some really big checks for what I did during the pandemic is I worked with a couple of meth testing companies in our area that had these approved courses through our Department of Regulatory Agency. It's called DORA, that offer these CE credits for like realtors and property managers. And I got them all together. They gave their courses, people listened, and we did 12 courses online throughout Colorado for around 500 different realtors and affiliates. Wow. And I learned so much, and it was very helpful, but this was coming from their class. Yeah. And so what I ended up doing is developing my own course of the things that I didn't hear that they were covering. I would interject and talk about them a little bit in that class, but we had very limited time. So I built my own course in the spirit of prevention for one, and to fill in all the gaps that the experts, the certified industrial hygienists, were maybe not talking about.
Speaking of time.
Right.
In the interest of time.
Sure.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun.
Right.
But how do people get in touch with you that want to, take advantage of these classes and maybe show it to other people that they know?
Absolutely. I'm hosting these classes for organizations of all different types, civic, law enforcement, as well as professionals in real estate and other affiliate industries that serve real estate, like lending, title, inspections, you name it, appraisals, all sorts of people. And then it's an organization of social impact, Meth Toxins Awareness Alliance. You can find our website on methtoxinsalliance.com. You can just email me at info@methtoxinsalliance.com.
There you go.
And Google me. It's, we're all over the internet, and there's plenty of really great people in the legal industry, as well as other areas that are, that I have found that provide subject matter expert information to help you deal with it if, God forbid, you think that there's a situation going on. But more importantly, let's try to keep it from happening. And I'm taking more and more steps, including this legislation, which is a first step to prevention, where here in Colorado, there's our state health department has a database, and it'll be a public-facing website of previously impacted properties and things like that. But just call, email me. Let's call. Let's get on a Zoom call or a conversation, and let's just get something scheduled. I welcome that.
Yeah, that would be amazing because I mean it's a huge problem.
It is.
Colorado kind of glossed over it. You know, back in the day, 20 years ago, we were having all these meth labs in houses and stuff in the springs, and it was really in the press a lot, and now it's not. So that people got to reach out to you so that we can get it back in the press,
right?
So that people can not have to deal with it.
And if we have time, just real briefly, meth here in the Front Range made it back into the news, including here in Colorado Springs, where you are at, in Pueblo, where our libraries were found to have meth in the bathrooms and some other public spaces.
So they had to close those down.
The bus station down here, the RTD station, and even I found out recently through a third party, so I haven't confirmed it yet, but our Jefferson County Courthouse in the Denver area, I heard their bathrooms were contaminated with meth. And so what I have learned in the years that this has happened to me since October of 2018 is that meth usage is still at epidemic levels. People aren't talking about it.
It's a thing.
It is a real thing, and I'm just here to bring awareness and education for prevention.
And we appreciate it, and we are so excited that you are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I'm glad. I hope this has been helpful to you.
It is.
And it's
very healing, and like we talked about, meth is a 4-letter word.
It is.
And instead of this like happening to me, I know it happened for me in a platform that, this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm so glad that you're doing it, and we'll have your information in the link after the show. And join us on the 30th. We're going to have Michelle Minkle here, and it's going to be amazing. Can't wait for you to join us. Thank you, Kathi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
and can't wait to do this again sometime. This will be fun. So it was a great show. Thank you for getting all the information out. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.